Welcome, 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 Offer Kings. To all the folks that are brand new to the group, I know we are a small community, but we are starting to build. Today is the kickoff of a series that I'm going to be doing exclusively inside this group for you all, which is really about how I am implementing a system based on content generation and monetizing that content to build or in reality rebuild my business online. Now, the purpose of these series are so that you can see and experience for yourself that this system does work, and so that you can start learning tips and tricks so you can start using this type of system, a monetization-based content system, to build your business. So what I've pledged and what I've been inviting a lot of people in to do is I'm going to give you behind the scenes looks at what I'm doing. I want you guys to understand the different tactics I'm putting in. I want you guys to be able to stop and ask questions like, hey, why would you do that? Why isn't this done? What are you doing first? What are you doing second, right? Because for me, when I watch a lot of high-end entrepreneurs, talk about how to get started, it always feels like they're talking from a point that doesn't necessarily make sense if you're in the how do I get started phase, right? They're always like, oh, you just throw like money at it. Like I was listening to like Stephen Larson the other day, and he talked about, oh, I'm just going to put up a new podcast. I'm spending about $15,000 to $20,000 a month to get it off the ground, but like, it's just a side project. You're spending $15,000 to $20,000 a month to get a side project off the ground? Like that isn't necessarily something that resonates with people that are really trying to launch or scale their business. And also, by the way, that's an insane amount of money to spend on content. I would have to be making a couple million a year at least before I started really putting that kind of money behind it. I think there's a lot more efficient and better ways to be, frankly, more omnipresent than many of the top entrepreneurs in the world, and for way, 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 way cheaper than what they're doing. But we'll get to that. So that's the goal of this series, is to really give you guys a backstory, the undercurrent, and to give you guys really behind the curtain, because eventually a lot of this is going to get turned into trainings and stuff like that, and we're going to be keeping very focused on what I'm good at, which is content monetization and content creation. But I'm hoping that if you're involved early and you're interested, you can really see how do you get the whole picture going. And when we bring in some outside experts, we can start referencing back to like, oh, hey, when I was doing this, that must have been what I did right, or that must have been what I did wrong, because it's equally important to share what we do right as what we do wrong, because that's how we learn. And you've heard this other places, it's a bit cliche now, but if you fail and you fail fast, then you learn fast and you can build fast. So that's going to be a goal. We're going to do this with a high wire act out and proud and loud for all of you here. So today, this particular kickoff one, I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of an overview, but I'm also going to tell you guys like why, if you're looking around the group, things aren't done, right? Because I wanted to keep this messy. I wanted to kick off before things were done, before things were perfect, before everything was set up, so that you guys can see what it takes to get it set up. Because again, if we just sort of go, oh, well, that's what it always looked like, we don't know that it took, a couple of days or a week or 2 weeks or months to get it perfect, to get it look like it is done. So a lot of the things that I'm doing, I'm actively kind of waiting to do in front of you guys so that you guys can see that you can succeed even if it's messy. So I'm not going to be intentionally messy by any means. I want this to be as real and honest as possible, but I'm also then going to be as open and clear about what I'm doing today, what I'm doing tomorrow, what I'm doing this week, why certain things don't get done. Because some days I'm going to say, hey, that's what I'm going to do today. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to get to it tomorrow and be like, oh, it didn't happen. And we'll talk about why. Because again, being an entrepreneur can be very isolating, particularly content creators. Like we love to create ideas and share value, but it can get to this very like endless point where we're just putting stuff out there and we're not getting necessarily a response. So on that note of that, I'm going to make a request before I start here. And because I believe that for every piece of content, you should be making offers or requests of your audience and your tribe and your community and those you are trying to serve. And I'm trying to serve you. So I'm going to make a request. Please think about who amongst your friends and colleagues would benefit from this. Who would benefit from getting a front row seat to how to build your business through content, how to set up a system that I will prove to you. I know it is proven because I have set it up for other clients. I've set it up for larger companies. I have done it both in the nonprofit space and the for-profit space that monetizes content or gets the conversions that you desire. Because a nonprofit, we weren't necessarily looking for profit. We were looking for conversions, which is a conversation for a future post. But at the end of the day, it's the same system that work, because getting people to do what you want, which as for most entrepreneurs, that is pay you for your services or for your product, or if it's an NGO that it's take an action you want them to do, sign up, post, tweet, things like that. It's still the same core principles. But I want you to think about who out there can benefit from this. And I want you to invite them to the group, and I want you to bring people into this community. I'm going to be giving away a ton of stuff open, and I don't like saying it's free. I'm just going to say that it's open to all. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to, prevaricate when I'm doing stuff, and when I'm setting it up, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how you can do it too. So that's going to be my pledge to you. Yes, I am an entrepreneur just like you, so I have courses that will help you do it in a concise manner and all those sort of things, and I believe that someday those will be successful. But I want people to be able to see it and experience it as they go and learn how to do it and see it in action, because I think that is helpful. So think about people, invite them, bring them to the group. That would be great. All right, so let's talk about behind the curtain. I'm going to try to be as vulnerable and as open as possible. So I'm literally just about to tell you like what's going on in my business. On my Facebook page, publicly, I did my origin story today, right? If you've been around content or you've been around ClickFunnels, the Russell Brunson world, the origin story is a key element of any content campaign. It is a story that you tell about yourself. It's how you tell where you got to where you are in your journey. I believe that it is a very compelling piece of content. I have actually trained people for much of the last year, really specifically on how to tell their origin story better. A spoiler alert, my first offer in this group will be an origin story coaching session and masterclass resources to turn your origin story into not just a one powerful piece of content, but into multiple pieces of content. But I did my version first, and you can tell it was rough. It's not polished, it's not perfect. We're out there and we're honest. I think things resonate when we're out there and we're honest. So I did that. You can check that out. But I want to just give you the brief background here if you weren't watching that or if you're watching this later. I've had ups and downs in my business. I have worked internationally. I spent almost a decade living in Asia, where I was a business consultant for Fortune 100s, all the way down to small startups. I have been in international media. I have been a managing editor of a global poverty, a global platform to end extreme poverty. I have been a professional radio host for 2 years and producer on talk radio based out of Asia, but being broadcast on 5 different continents. I have done content in the United States. I have done content externally. I've done it in professional settings. I've done it in media settings. I've done it in NGO settings. And I have also done a lot of business coaching. And so my career has always felt like 2 different tracks, business coaching over here and content over there. And I'm finally sort of making this like very belated realization, as a lot of my clients have been telling me for years, that those are one and the same for a lot of people. And so that's why I'm here to do it. And I'm also going to show you guys that, we can embrace content as a driver of profit and revenue rather than as just a lead loss thing. So, all right. Why am I rebuilding my business though? So I've had good months and I've had bad months. A couple of years ago, I moved to Philadelphia, and a lot of my international clients had disappeared at that point. I spent the previous 2 years living in New York City, working about 13 or 14 hours a day as the founding managing editor of this platform that was dedicated to ending extreme poverty. This organization was great, but one of the things that really happened to me was that my personal social media channels never took off. Before that, I lived in China, so I had no access to Western media and social media. So I wasn't allowed to tweet. The Great Firewall meant that I never built an early Twitter following. It meant that I never built an early Facebook following because I couldn't access Facebook. And it meant that YouTube wasn't available to me. And when I moved back to the US, I started working for a company that basically said, look, you can't really focus on your personal channels. You have to just build them through the company. And so I did that. And so the time I moved to Philadelphia, I had an international roster of clients who hadn't heard from me in a couple of years. I had domestic news organizations that didn't care about my global experience because no one in Philly does international news. I had Philadelphia-based clients who saw my international business consultant who didn't want international business consulting, and they wanted local stuff. And I had news organizations that wanted to know if I knew local stuff in Philadelphia and didn't care that I knew about stuff in Asia or stuff in Europe or stuff in Africa, because that's not what they cared about. And so I was at a loss. I also didn't know anybody here. I moved here because the woman I am now married to has a business here. And we met and we fell in love, and I moved to Philadelphia, and I love Philadelphia. And I love her, but it left me at odds and ends with business. The brief story is I then went the entrepreneurial route, and I had some success building a marketing agency for attorneys, but it kind of like went up and then it dipped and it went up and it dipped. And I found that the agency model was just a disaster for me, and attorneys were not my tribe. And then I went online and I learned a lot, and I got really good at creating content and created this little tribe, and then moved into one-to-one coaching and did that for a little bit. But that basically meant that I stopped creating content, and I stopped engaging with my tribe, and I stopped doing all the external things. I started doing all the things I really loved and fun, and did all this really great one-on-one work that had me working in my business and not on my business. And when my clients did well, they sort of, aged out, and they started building their businesses to other stages, and I started moving them on to different projects. And then I was sort of left going, oh, well, what am I going to do? So I'm literally rebuilding my business from scratch right now. So I have a couple of leftover clients, not leftover, but continuing clients, but they do not pay my bills. They barely cover the tools that I need for my business. And while I love them to death and I do still work for them, one of my clients basically pays for my student loans because we also have student loans, and another one basically pays for my business tools. So it does not pay my bills, does not do that. At the moment I just checked, I have $213.59 in my business account. That is the definition of starting basically from almost nothing. I understand. I guess I could spend that money on something fun for a night or two and then say I started at zero, but I'm going to be honest, $213.59. And I already have plans for some of that money going to more business tools that I do think are essential. And we'll talk about that in the coming week or so about what I'm going to use that money to help me get started so that you understand where limited resources can have the most impact. I do have a ClickFunnels account, which I pay monthly for. I do have a Bluehost account, which does allow me to have unlimited but relatively slow websites hosted there. And I'll be looking at a couple of new tools that are going on up there. So again, one of my clients that I do work for basically covers my ClickFunnels account, my Bluehost account, and a couple of other like ongoing tools that we'll talk about, but not a lot to invest on, no money for ads, no money for that kind of spending, that kind of stuff. I also made a mistake that I'm going to turn into a positive. All my websites are gone. So I used to have a business website, grasshopperstrategies.com, and it was still largely focused on attorneys, even when I started moving on to entrepreneurs, because I didn't have time to go back and update it. I had a personal website, Blackburn-Dwyer.com. That used to be about me doing keynote speaking, which is something that I do, used to be on the side, will now be a bigger part of my business. And it had like my resume and stuff like that so people could research me. And I had a website based on my TEDx talk called InnerMillennial.com. I did a TEDx about a year and a half ago on cross-generational differences and similarities and urging people to embrace their inner millennial. Again, something that for a long time I saw as separate from my business. It kind of was this other thing I did. And I'll talk a lot in the coming weeks about how I'm trying to unify all these different things that I used to think of as separate and finally realizing that the through line is it's all about content. It's all about engagement. It's all about interacting with people and teaching people. But none of those exist right now. You can go into the URLs and you're literally going to get the parked by GoDaddy thing. The reason for that is I was transferring from GoDaddy as a host, which is a very expensive host, to Bluehost, which is a much more affordable host. And I made a mistake because I did it myself. I didn't outsource it. I didn't go to somebody that knows how to do this well. And it basically ended up doing it at the last minute. And so I thought it was all set up and ready to go on Bluehost as a transferred website. And I hit switch over on the same day that it was expiring on GoDaddy. And the next morning I woke up and all my URLs were just parked. And I looked at the transfer websites, they didn't work, and they were all gone. So I'm literally starting with zero presence. I do have one active funnel up. It is for the One Funnel Away Challenge. That is still active, but it's not something I've actively promoted in months. Largely because I think the One Funnel Away Challenge is a great challenge if you're looking to get into ClickFunnels, but it wasn't the focus of my business. So that is still up. Before that, I had actually taken down a couple of funnels that were aimed at lawyers that were very successful with attorneys. But as I pulled away from lawyers, I obviously pulled those down. And while I was working heavily one-on-one, I worked on a few funnels for myself, but never finished any of them, right? Because too much time working inside my business, not on my business. And so literally $13 in my bank account, and no websites, basically no funnels, no presence, right? Social media channels, they are at limited levels, in part because of structural issues. Like I said, I lived in China, that's an excuse. When I worked for a company who basically forbid me from using them, that's an excuse, not a reason. The real reason is mindset. I will get into this in a whole post or a couple of posts really about mindset, but I'll admit it. As a person that has taught people content, has led content, has been a talk radio host, has been on international television more than 275 times for full episodes of commentary, you would think that I would just be a content machine. And I can be. I was a very good writer. I like to think I'm a very good writer. I'm fast. I'm good when I'm actually creating content, but doing it for myself on my own social media, I had a huge mindset wall that it just kept me from doing it. So that's starting from scratch. That's getting this off the ground, getting people to really understand how to do this. So when I say I'm starting from scratch, and I'm going to show you that it's possible to build even with no following and no presence and no that, and none of this, all those like things that you see people say in marketing, this is true. This is real. I am being open and vulnerable with you. I'm going to do this with no following, no online presence, and basically no financial resources to back me up. And we're going to show you how this can work over the coming months. I'm getting there. Or we're going to fail spectacularly, and you're going to have to laugh and snigger behind your hand and go, see, that's what I'm not going to do. But I'm more confident in that because I know this system works. I've built it for others, and it will work for me if I can just get out of my head and start creating content. So let's talk about the plan, right? Because that's what we're talking about here. So the plan for me, short term, is I'm going to build up this Facebook group, not just the followings, but the actual group itself. If you look around the group, today it is December 17th when this is being recorded. The group is atrocious. It has, up until this morning, it had a completely different name. It was called The Bigger, Better Deal. Now it's called Entrepreneur Experts, How to Monetize Your Content, The Offer Kings, right? Because the branding for my tribe is The Offer Kings. And I will get into a whole post publicly about where the Offer Kings name come from, but it's important. I think it's an aspirational thing. It's also a realistic goal and way to make money online. So that's important to me to carry on. But the group at the moment and the focus for the foreseeable future is how to monetize your content. So I wanted that in the name. When I get into one of these behind the scenes, peek behind the curtain, why am I setting up the group this way? I'll get into the name. But the short version is how to monetize your content is something people search for. They're also very high value keywords that people are looking for. Entrepreneur experts, entrepreneur, very high value keyword, very heavily searched for on Facebook. And in my view, entrepreneur experts, people that are expert information that want to be entrepreneurial, that's the people that I want to serve. So those are the people I want to serve, and I want to bring them into my community and turn them into my tribe who are Offer Kings. So that's the goal. So that's where the name comes from. But nothing else in the group matches that. None of the posts say Offer Kings. The cover photo of this group doesn't say anything about the Offer Kings. It says The Bigger, Better Deal. People that I approved today had applied when it was still The Bigger, Better Deal. So they're going to be like, wait, what the heck? What group is this that I joined? That's the reality, right? We are always iterating and always changing. So a lot of my goal for this week is to finalize the early build-up and solidification of the group. I will also give credit where credit is due. I am following a plan built by a woman named Alex Elliott. She runs something called the One Group Away Challenge. I think it's a really great program. Frankly, it was one that I bought about a month ago and started to get into it and then kind of went, and again, as I was figuring out this content thing, I said, I'll come back to it. And once I really rededicated myself to that, it's been incredible training. She's really done a lot of good work for good people. So I like to give credit where credit is due. I am a content and monetization and offer person. Alex Elliott is a group growth expert. And so hopefully maybe someday I'll bring her into the group and she can tell you all about that. But we'll be following that plan and I'll be sharing what I'm doing. I'll also be doing early content generation. My goal is to get to 4 to 5 original pieces a week. That's going to be difficult because right now, obviously, we're going into the holidays. We're going to Christmas, to New Year's. So there's going to be some gaps in there. Also, I have to keep doing those handful of clients I have that pay my student loans and pay for my business tools, right? Those are people that I have to go service. So tomorrow, for example, I'll be spending my morning with one client and my afternoon with the other one. And then on Friday, one of my clients is very nicely invited me to their Christmas party, so I'll be going to that. Hey, it's Christmas party time. So that'll be fun. But it does mean that there will be harder days for me to be getting content out. So I have to figure out how to get around that. I want to be open about that so you guys understand that not everybody that says they're consistent immediately launches and boom, they have 100 pieces of content a day. We just don't do that. We got to start small. We got to start what we can. We got to do what we can. So I'm going to be doing origin story stuff. I'm going to be doing content-focused stuff. I'm going to largely be following in the early stuff a lot of what some people might know as the sideways webinar. It's a tactic on what you might do in the early days of your podcast, which is basically make your first 4 or 5 pieces effectively the different parts of a good webinar script or the perfect webinar script out of Russell Brunson. I'll be doing that. So a lot of what I'll be doing is why is content important, how you can sort of monetize it, how you can get past some of the barriers that you might have with content. So I'll be talking about that publicly, and then inside the group, I'll be talking about the strategy behind not just the content, but actually what I'm doing to build the monetization system underneath all that content. Because that's the real difference here. You can build and create compelling content, but you have to have a system that content feeds into that actually monetizes it. That's the real, that's the brilliance of using content to drive profit into your business, is having that system set up. So you guys are gonna watch as I build that system and create content to drive people to it. I will also be doing early offer setup stuff. And I'm gonna be showing you guys that it's more important to have an offer somewhere than it is to have the right perfect offer for what you're talking about at that point. I have seen people make money on offers that have absolutely nothing to do with the content that they have put up. They've just put up a good piece of content about something, and then they're like, hey, I have this other thing over there. If you like me as a writer, go over here and check it out, right? It's not the most effective. It's not the most efficient. It's not going to have the highest conversion rate. But if the difference is, do I tell them I have an offer or do I not tell them I have an offer? You always tell them you have an offer. Always. Just put an offer out there. That's the beginning of it. The just do it model, right? Just tell me you have an offer. You get somebody to convert, And then you give yourself some time to get to the perfect offer or the right offer or the better offer or the better targeted offer or the better companion offer. Those are the next steps. So I'll be doing early offer setup. As I said earlier in this broadcast, I'll be looking at probably origin story as my early setup, and then maybe some offer coaching, which I also have experience with. So there'll be like one-off coaching sessions with me, probably 60-minute coaching sessions that have been very, very valuable, and I have testimonials to back that up with other clients in the past, particularly coming out of the One Funnel Away Challenge groups that I've been a mentor for. And that'll at least give me an opportunity to say, hey, I have an offer. Go drive to that offer, right? That's what I do as I build my more targeted offer. I'll also be spending the next week or so really on the social media setup and stuff like that. Now, mid-range, it's going to be about driving content and traffic to my baseline offer, which will be created in the next 2 weeks. It'll be content syndication and cross-channel maximization. That's the mid-range goal. And then continue to share this journey as much as humanly possible to show you guys how these systems are built and how they actually work. That's kind of the near to midterm. So what am I actually doing? Today, this afternoon, I'm going to be spending the rest of the afternoon finishing the basic group setup. That means that the cover photo on this thing has to change, right? So I launched the group. Things weren't done. Who cares? Most of the people that are going to be coming to this group aren't here today, unfortunately. But that's the reality, right? You start small and you get big. So when people see this later, they're going to be like, oh, really? It was different when it was early on? Yeah. If you were here in the beginning, you would have seen that it was just a whole bunch of stuff. I'm screenshotting everything, by the way, so that people can see just how messy it was when it got started. But I'll be changing the cover photo. The name has already been changed today, and I'm going to be actually looking through content to fill in with units and things like that. So I do have some great stuff that I'm going to be adjusting from past groups that is very valuable and very useful. But repurposing content is a great way to serve current and future audiences. I am a believer in creating as much original content as possible, but I am also a believer in maximizing the content that you do create, particularly if it's so applicable. And so a lot of the units early on are going to be filled and populated relatively quickly by me repurposing my previous content. So you guys are going to see some of that process, and I'll walk through it as I do it. And you'll end up just seeing this stuff. And if you're seeing this video much later on, look at what's in the units. I'll tell you, a lot of that stuff was previously written. So it's not like I sat down one day and created 150 pages worth of content, which, by the way, I have over 150 pages worth of written content for my One Funnel Away Challenge groups. But I can turn that into a whole bunch of other stuff really, really, really fast. Why? Because it's already written. And I already have videos of it, already have it written, graphics, and do all that stuff. And I can just really repopulate, tweak, adjust, make sure it's targeted correctly, and boom, it's useful. Tomorrow, I have client work, as I said. So I'll be out with a client, but I will hopefully be getting some work done. On Thursday, I'm going to be finishing the group, and I'm going to go live. And Thursday, what I'm really planning on talking about is what I call my branding map and my URL structure. So probably somewhere in the afternoon on Thursday, probably around 3 or 3:30 US East Coast time, I will be going live, and I'm going to walk you through how I break down a funnel, a branding map for a company. And so you guys are going to see how I do it for others. I basically just turned around and did it for myself. And that's going to be, how do I use a business website? Do I need a business website? Do I need a personal website? What do I do with a TEDx talk that's sitting on a random URL? What needs to be a funnel? What needs to not be a funnel? Why do I have a Bluehost account for hosting and ClickFunnels when ClickFunnels is a host, right? So these are all questions that I'm going to try to answer by laying out the strategy, because it's really important in my view, and it works for my brain, to get that big picture architecture set up. And so that's why a brand map is a key element to building your online thing, because if you don't know where you're going, it's hard to take incremental steps to get towards there. If you don't have that architecture set in your mind, if you don't have a strategic plan or at least a strategic vision of what you want to be doing, it's almost impossible each day to take a correct step in the correct direction, which is towards accomplishing your goals. Because instead of taking a step, what you're doing is each day you're waking up and you're going, what is a big picture goal that I want to accomplish? How do I think I get there? What does that stuff look like? How do I make it something I can do today? How do I blah, 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 blah. And then finally, after all that thought process, you're finally like, man, I'm really tired. Now I guess I got to go take the step. Instead, if you actually plan with some sort of vision, with some sort of goals, then you know where you're going, and you can already have spent, in one sit-down session, time breaking that into steps along the way. And so that when you wake up fresh each morning to get your day done, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just look down at your map and you're like, boom, that's what I'm working on today. I'm going to get this done. And magically, you get it done, and you're faster and you're fresher, because human beings, we are fresh in the morning. We are fresh when we first start working, and we can really focus on being productive. So that's going to be a big one on Thursday. I'm hoping it's really interesting. The because brand map and URL structures are a key point for me in helping people build their online presences. And it will also be a key element to eventually building your monetization system for your content, one that just sort of works simply and without you having to pay attention to it every single day. Because if you set it up correctly, all of it will drive back to profit, which is what we want, right? All right, so in the meantime, take a look at this video, get people in here. I am at your pleasure. I am here to help you. Start asking questions. What questions do you have about content? I am here to answer. I am here to engage. Start telling me what you think you're going to be doing. Start telling me how you want to drive profit through content. Why do you want to be doing content? Who are you trying to serve? All right, start keeping an eye out for a lot of the new content and new resources that I'm going to be going to, because the units that I'm putting in here will have real value for you, will have real information that you guys can start using and implementing right away. This is stuff the unit stuff that I'm using is stuff that has had tried and true results for people that have gone through my one-on-one coaching and the One Funnel Away challenge. So this is stuff that is super, super valuable, and it'll just be right there ready for you. I'm actually pulling stuff out from a lot of my paid stuff around One Funnel Away because I'd rather give it out to people than try to shove people back to something that I'm not sure is the right fit for everybody anymore. But yeah, so that's the goal. So let me know how you're going. Introduce yourself in the group. Thank you for being here. Thursday afternoon, US East Coast time, probably 3 o'clock. I'll keep you guys updated. Will be the next sort of behind the scenes look. I might jump in here tomorrow and just talk a little bit about co-working, but Thursday is going to be about brand mapping and URL structure and how that sets you up to eventually monetize all of your traffic and all of your content that you're generating in the coming month. All right, talk to you soon. Thank you for being here. And Offer Kings, remember, your empire is your story as long as you keep telling it. Talk to you soon.